What's up, everybody? It's Brandon from Box Office Banner and Cult Flick Symposium, and I'm coming at you with a review for the original Guardians of the Galaxy. What else can be said about this movie? It's almost black sheepish amongst the rest of the movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because everything else just feels so much more mainstream, doesn't it? There's a little bit of off-kilterness, I think, amongst this movie in comparison to the other ones, in terms at least of the main frame superheroes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I think that is what really attracted me to it. So without further ado, let's dive into some Guardians of the Galaxy. I have shades on right now because I have a headache and I am ultra tired, but the show must go on. Let's talk about it. All right, coming into this, let me just go ahead and say, I was very pick and choosy about my Marvel movies. Like, it used to be, now if you know me, if you've seen our MCU reviews with the other guys on this channel, I've came around and I'm a fan of the MCU. Enough to where I get every movie when it comes out on 4K. I like collecting them. I enjoy them. I'm not a super fan. I don't go crazy over it, but there is ones that I absolutely love. I used to pick and choose at the time this came out which MCU movies I wanted to see. And I was, even before seeing it, it was so refreshing to see something like this come out. Just from the trailer, I immediately felt like this is something different. Even if, the old Captain Americas I used to watch, I love superheroes growing up. I don't know why that didn't translate over into Marvel immediately. I'm like, whoa, man, better actors, better graphics. Gotta be worth a while, right? If you grew up watching superhero stuff. Apparently it wasn't to me. But Captain America and Iron Man and Thor, which Thor is my dude now's the key word, were just like, even though the older incarnations we saw of these weren't really shit and the ones that were put on screen weren't done well, there was something about it that was just like so shoved down my throat that I did not find appealing about it. And I'm somebody like flashy doesn't really do anything for me. I need something with absolute no substance, like the slasher movies, or something that is all substance, like, a powerful drama or A24 normally. And Marvel's kind of like that in between popcorn flick. Popcorn flicks don't really do it for me. And it felt like when it was coming out, Marvel was just like, oh my God, like everybody wanted to be the biggest Marvel fan because they could feel it just taking off, much like Iron Man in a suit. Just that's when it happened. As soon as Iron Man went at the end of Iron Man 1 at the hour and 30-minute mark. I'm just playing. I have no idea. That'd be wild if that was accurate, though. That can't be accurate, right? He got up in the suit in like the middle of the movie. Neither here nor there. But that was about the time everybody's like, I've got to take off with this. It's going to take over the world. Ugh. Other than that Hulk movie. Fuck Edward Norton. Sorry, dude. Not fuck Edward Norton. Fuck. As in fuck, that sucks. Space Edward Norton. I like Edward Norton. But they forgot about that. But everybody else coming out around that time, it was pushing on you. And then, after I pick and choosied my way through the MCUZ, I found myself at Guardians of the Galaxy, and I was like, you know what? Maybe this is my time to take off. Like, look at this. Ain't nobody probably, they're interested because it's Marvel, but is anybody like hyped for this? Like, let's just go into this. I love Chris Pratt. I don't really like wrestling anymore at all, mind you, but when it was first coming out, I was all about some wrestling. Or not first coming out, when I was young, I loved wrestling, so Batista's in it. I haven't really seen him in much. Let's see what he can do. Bradley Cooper is a solid actor. Vin Diesel voicing Groot. And one girl that plays Gamora. Name is escaping me right now. No any other time. Know how that goes. I was like, I like this cast. Chris Pratt, Parks and Rec. Come on, man. Let's see what they can do. And I got to tell you, from the word, moment, jump, go, this movie pulled me in. Again, it felt different. Again, it's like everybody has that movie, where obviously everybody applies themselves to it. Like, they're like, I love it. Yeah, you're not the only one who loves it. Obviously, there's millions of fans. How much money, especially the MCU, rolls in. But there's something that, like, even though you know that in the back of your mind, that it uniquely applies to you. Rooting for the underdog, like the Rocky movies are my favorite. This immediately settled in with what I knew I could enjoy going forward with the MCU. So I gotta start off by saying this movie is what made me a big MCU fan, or at least, more than a casual fan. And let's talk about the villain. I just want to get that out of the way because Marvel villains suck. I think Ronan's kind of underrated. He's not great. I think they kind of tame his diabolicalness after like that opening moment, because when he first comes on, he's like, it's almost like something out of like Prometheus or something. The way he's raising up on like the ship, and then he's like talking to the guy and he's getting like all his gear on. And the guy's like, no, no, no. And he just, I mean, you don't see it, but it's like inches away from you seeing it. He just bluntly pulverizes dude's head. Dope. So I'm already getting funny vibes, but I'm also getting serious in nature stuff with Star-Lord's mom dying in the beginning, and I'm getting emotional cues, which I love. Again, I love me some drama. And then I'm getting like brutal-esque villain in an MCU movie. I think that's what locked me in right away. Then you could talk about the other characters. Nebula. Man, they've done this so many times in movies, but they do it so well here, I think. The whole little sister rivalry. I just, I love the actress there, too. Another name I'm forgetting. I just don't remember chicks' names, apparently. She's great, though. Redhead chick. You see, I know she's got red hair. She's got red hair, and she's not in the Nebula gear. But Nebula and Gamora's relationship and, their intentions and everything else, I think play out very, very well. And you believe like that, you can almost feel without them even saying, like there's something there where they have a respect for each other as siblings, where it's not completely gone. Maybe there's that little twinkle of hope that they can rekindle something, but right now they are not on good terms. And they do a great job of utilizing that amongst the movie without having to go too deep into it and extending the runtime for no apparent reason. Very good on that part. Then you talk about, the main crew. Chris Pratt. I mean, it's Andy with muscles from Parks and Rec, right? Like, again, this would go on to kind of plague Chris Pratt because he usually plays the same role. Everybody harps on it. But at least at this time, I was like, oh my God, it's Chris Pratt. Because it was like the first movie I saw him in where he's starring. I'm just like, wow, hold on, dude. Chris Pratt. Other than like stupid comedies, that he was in. Like, he's at the center of Marvel. Star-Lord is Chris Pratt. Very exciting, and he does a great job as Star-Lord / Chris Pratt. Very fun in this movie. Batista. Come on, man. Batista stole the show in this movie and continues to steal the show. I was nowhere near prepared for Batista to be as funny as he is. Not just in this movie. Going forward, any installment where, a part of the MCU universe, even the Christmas installment, which I'm not going to do a review for, but he was really funny in that came out last year. And obviously Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and hopefully 3 when that comes out tomorrow. This man just continues to shine, and he out the gates. I want to say this is his best, but a lot of that might be due to just like the surprise of how good he was. Like, from every fucking line he has in the movie, the way even Rocket says like he takes things literally, where it's just like it'll go right over his head. And right after that, he comes back with this, like, nothing will go over my head. My reflexes are too fast. I would catch it. Like, something like that, right? It might be verbatim. It might not be. But those stupid lines he says and the delivery and his deadpanness are always so right on cue. It's a tough one to really pin down because you can do that and the deadpan doesn't even work. You don't even realize there's a deadpan to it. You're just like, okay, that's rude, or that's a statement. This is awkward now. You can move on. And then there's people like him that can just do it, and there's something in that timing, right, that's spectacular. And Batista, being, especially coming from who it's from, remember him as just jacked. I mean, he's big in these movies, but when he was in his prime in wrestling, Batista was jacked. It's funny that he's doing it, and now it isn't Batista in a Marvel movie. He is Drax. Who the fuck else could play Drax? Come on. Then we got, of course, Rocket, and we got Groot. And Rocket is your lovable fucking just douchebag that really on the inside has a big heart. And Groot is one of the most adorable things, even before he becomes baby Groot. Even as big Groot, you want to protect him, don't you? You just want to hide him and plant your seeds and let him just keep growing until he's a full-on beanstalk. Groot's the man, right? Groot's the shit. But I think what's so great about them is they're all funny, but it's like all in their own unique little ways. Like no two characters are the same. Like Groot is this one note lovable, like oblivious in a different way, kind of funny. Just, probably has so much more to say than any of them, but he just can't quite say it because we don't understand the different intricacies of I am Groot. Then you got Rocket, who's like the practical jokester that's always looking to make a joke. Then you got fucking Drax, who's the ultimate just like dumbass that doesn't realize how dumb he is, takes everything so literal. And then you got Star Lord, who's just, you know, the smart ass, who's got to throw it right back at you and be the leader. And then you got Gamora, who's just in the corner rolling her eyes, just trying to get the mission done, but is also funny in her own way. And they come together in a nice little ball and make up the black sheep of the MCU. The story in this movie, everything with the Infinity Stone, we're getting to see Thanos, was great. It's been talked about him enough. There's not really much more to say on this front. It's been out forever. I've done a review on it. But what really sets it and, the tone and what everything that works for this movie is the characters and how well they work together. The story is your typical kind of MCU movie. It's fun. It's good enough. Keeps everything driving and going, leading us to a climax with everybody wanting this Infinity Stone, and Ronan does not need to get his hands on it. But the trip there and learning and growing with these characters is what really makes Guardians a cut above the rest of the MCU, frankly. The musical soundtrack as well, got to talk about that. Marvel's decent, pretty hit or miss with soundtracks. A lot of times it's generic. And you could even say some of these song titles are generic. But used in this movie, especially with the emotional punch of it being, the soundtrack from his mom who had passed away, and then the mysteries of who his dad is, which I love how we get that directly basically in the second one. It really adds another element to the music in the movie to where it feels like a character almost within the movie. Even down to, in the second one, naming it Volume 2, just like he gets Mix Volume 2. Star-Lord is such an interesting, more of your oh my God, everybody else is bigger than life. But Star-Lord is that's like me, I could be Star-Lord. Obviously you wouldn't be as badass because even though he's a jokester, dude can be pretty badass at times. He ain't gonna ever get that credit, and you ain't gonna hear me say it again, but he can be. But you feel as a viewer, that's almost attainable. I joke around like that. I mess around like that. I'm an outcast like that. If he could do it, I can do it. Even as a kid, you know what I mean? As an adult, you don't get into that type of stuff as much. But, sometimes you might if you want to get motivated enough. But that's the cool and unique thing about Star-Lord and this whole cast. And that's the biggest thing I can just harp on. Black sheep, outcasts, making their own way, and just being unique. And then the other cast that joins in, obviously John C. Reilly's always pretty damn funny. He just has a way of carrying himself that also has almost a heartwarming-esque vibe when he's not being funny. It might make no sense to you. It might make all the sense to you, and you're like, damn, I never really thought about it like that. Yeah, he does, at least to me. Glenn Close. She's fine. She's nothing special, but it's kind of cool to see Glenn Close, though, in a weird way. Because am I crazy? Maybe I'm losing my mind right now off the rip, off top. I feel like I don't see Glenn Close in a lot of things anymore. Really don't. I remember she was in that one hillbilly movie, and there's a meme over with the glasses. I'm trying to remember what that movie's called, but not a whole lot. So cool to see her. The surrounding cast in general maybe could use a little work, but then of course the other main guy within the movie that's kind of a bad guy, kind of not. You're kind of trying on a little rabbit trail figuring out what he is. He's basically taken over almost like a father-son type role, but it's a little more complicated than that with fucking Michael Rooker as Yondu. And Yondu, man, at first you're like, this dude's going to kill his ass. He's going to kill him. But as it goes on, you do see just he talks a big game, but it's not what it appears at first. This dude really loves Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord. Like, he lays it on thick, but at the end of the day, he couldn't harm a hair on his head. He's just got to be that guy in front of his crew. And I think initially he's like, God, don't put my back against the fucking wall. Like, God, how many times are you gonna do this? Like just like how you'd be with your kid, except maybe you're talking about chores. Like, oh my God, you don't clean your room, and we got company over. It's the 5th straight time you've done this to me. They're gonna be here in a second. Except for Yondu, it's more like, again, you do this to me? I don't know how many times I'm going to be able to talk them out of eating you, Peter. But at the end of the day, might sound a little more harsh, he loves Peter. And I think by the end of it, once, the orbs or whatever get switched, he's just kind of sitting there. He's even smiling at this point like, kids will be kids. And we see that love develop even more, and we see a little bit more of that in the second one, which is something I really appreciate. And Yondu's pretty badass, let's face it, with that fucking arrow, dude. Now, it's waned a little bit because, time does that to everything. But I was even thinking about that when I first watched it. Or when I watched it tonight, thinking back to the first time I watched it. Like, I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh, yeah, cool little arrow scene. But I remember the first time I saw it in the theater, I was like, that's kind of badass. It was, sometimes you got to, shake it off, shake that rust off a little bit. Like, I've seen this movie 20, 30 times. Oh, this is still cool, or like, oh, I remember how much I love that, but actually being like, let me actually remember how much I love that. Let me put myself back in that theater seat and how I felt, and you kind of can think back and just get lost in it all over again. Like, man, like how cool was that though when I first saw it? Kind of did that with this viewing, even though this time I noticed, I'm like, why are all these motherfuckers like they get hit with the arrow, and I always remember it being quicker, like, and they all fall. This time it was like, that went on for about 15 seconds. And the people that initially got stabbed at like the 1, 2, 3, 4 second mark stood up as long as the people, they got stabbed at the 15-second mark. So if you want to get nitpicky, Jonathan Nitpicky, Lipnicky, whatever that little motherfucker's name was, stupid joke, you can go there with it. But it's still badass. It's still cool. Just like whistle. I can't even whistle. Y'all know that about me? Okay, I'm not that pathetic, at least in terms of attempt, but can't whistle. So if I had this arrow and everybody's like a situation with like, shoot him, Brandon, shoot him, like it was like a gun, I'd be able to like shit, we're fucked. Like everybody else's mouth with duct tape, and it was up to me. You're with me. You're dead. I don't know if that arrow is legit though. I don't know. Might have to eBay it or something. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. I mean, the characters are what really separate this from the rest of the MCU. Because when you get down to it, let's be honest. Like a lot of things we love, so let's not rip into the MCU too much. It's all pretty copy and paste. But every once in a while, one comes out, switches up the flavor a little bit, makes it better, makes it a more standout entry other than just the crazy, fucking cinematography, or not cinematography, just the practical effects and the CGI, more of that on that front. Something will separate it every once in a while. This is a movie that took a step out of bounds, did something different, and we relished in it. And I still relish in this movie. Great flick. I give Guardians of the Galaxy an 8.8 out of 10. Damn near 9. Still special to me. Still very special. Let me know what y'all think of Guardians of the Galaxy. Don't let the review fool you. Don't let it feel you. I don't know why I said feel. Don't let it fool you. I'm so damn tired. I might be going to bed. But if I can manage, I'm going to go ahead and do my review for Guardians of the Galaxy 2. That way I can have those both at you tonight before I do the third one tomorrow or the next day. But don't hold me on that because I'm beat, y'all. I'm about to fall asleep, got a headache. I might just go ahead and go to bed, and then tomorrow we'll get the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 review. I don't know, though. Stay tuned if y'all are already watching this. We'll see. But I love you guys. Let me know what y'all think about Guardians of the Galaxy, what your anticipations are for the third one, all that good shit. Like, share, subscribe. It's always much appreciated. Y'all are the best. Be good, or be good at it, whatever Lil Wayne says, maybe. Peace.